All right, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's not delay. We have more tariffs. Does anybody else feel like just Trump spends his entire weekend thinking about new tariffs, and then Monday he either backs out of them because of some deal, or he imposes them. Every weekend since he took office, there's always a tariff story that comes out of it. Anyways, so this is from CBS News. Trump orders 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Here's what experts say could become pricier. And this is from CBS News. So I want to make one thing clear. I'm not across the board anti tariff. What I am anti is across the board tariffs that just don't make sense. And this is another one that we'll go into. Well, we'll see what this article says first, and then I'm going to go into how much of steel and aluminum we produce per year and how much we consume. But I'm against tariffs that don't make sense or used as some kind of a bargaining tool, or like if we don't produce something and we can't meet our own demand, then we should not be tariffing something. All right? That's my thoughts. But if we do produce something like crude oil, that is one the tariff didn't end up going through, but that is one that I could understand. Because we produce more crude oil than we consume, and I don't know. To me, it's like, why are we importing so much? Why are we so reliant? That's something that could be looked into. But anyways, President Trump is again turning to tariffs to advance his trade agenda, signing new orders to place 25% import duties on all steel and aluminum imports. Yeah, this isn't like his previous ones, which were kind of targeted at specific countries. This seems to be all countries, all steel, all aluminum. Although the idea is to protect U.S. manufacturers from unfair competition, consumers can end up paying more for some products that use the metals, according to economists. Mr. Trump, who signed two executive orders on Monday imposing the new metal tariffs, has said such duties can help revitalize key U.S. industries. For instance, some companies could opt to open new plants in the U.S. to avoid tariffs, while buyers could shift to U.S. made products rather than pricier imports. That okay, issuing tariffs doesn't make like 10 new factories pop up overnight. This takes time, years to build factories and then hire a workforce, which I'm all for, but you shouldn't impose the tariffs until you're ready to handle the tariffs. He always frames it as, "Oh, prices won't go up. This is a tax on the companies." No, it's not. It gets passed to consumers because the whole point of a tariff is to raise the prices to incentivize buying a different product, like an American made product. And for steel, how the fuck do US, like your normal fucking buyers, like, how do they know where the fucking steel and aluminum in their fucking products is coming from? It just makes no sense. I mean, I guess if he says U.S. businesses, but then if he means U.S. businesses and manufacturers, then we just shift back to the point we don't make enough steel or aluminum to begin with. Anyways, our nation requires steel and aluminum to be made in America, not in foreign lands. We need to create in order to protect our country's future resurgence of U.S. manufacturing and production, the likes of which has not been seen for many decades, Mr. Trump said on Monday. The U.S. imports roughly a quarter of domestically used steel, with most of it sourced from Canada and Mexico, along with countries including Brazil, South Korea, and Japan, according to the International Trade Administration. Who pays for tariffs? Because U.S. importers pay tariffs on overseas goods directly to the federal government, the costs are typically passed on to American consumers, trade experts told CBS Money Watch. That means some products that rely on steel and aluminum, such as vehicles and appliances, are likely to become more expensive if the steel and aluminum tariffs go into effect. If you put a tax on imported steel and aluminum, you will raise the price of everything that uses that. Cars first and foremost, said Dean Baker, senior economist at the Center for Economic and Policy Research. A typical car contains roughly 1,000 pounds of steel at the cost of about 6,000 or 7,000 per vehicle, Baker told CBS Money Watch. That means adding a 25% tariff could increase the cost of a car by 1,000 to 1,500, he estimated. Although some automakers might shift to buying more U.S.-made steel, American manufacturers would also likely boost their prices, taking advantage of the higher cost for foreign-made steel, he added. Meanwhile, U.S. car prices could rise even more sharply if Trump proceeds with 25% tariffs on all Mexican and Canadian imports, now subject to a 30-day pause as officials negotiate. The impact of those tariffs would add $6,250 to the average $25,000 price of a car shipped into the U.S. from those two countries, according to an analysis by S&P Global Mobility. Under Mr. Trump's orders, steel imports from all countries will now face 25% tariffs, while aluminum tariffs will be raised from 10 to 25%. The orders were instituted under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, which authorizes the president to address imports, including by imposing tariffs when they are determined to threaten national security. Tariffs could drive up inflation. Mr. Trump's plans to lean on new tariffs to enact his trade and other policy objectives has prompted some economists to forecast higher inflation in 2025. While it's not clear that Mr. Trump will enact all the tariffs he's outlined, he recently gave a 30-day reprieve to Mexico and Canada in his plan to enact 25% import duties on those countries. The president is also signaling plans to move forward with additional tariffs. On Sunday, Mr. Trump said that in addition to the steel and aluminum tariffs, he planned to announce reciprocal tariffs on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll probably be doing a video on that too, which he said would take effect immediately. Under that scenario, the U.S. would impose import duties on products in cases where another country has levied duties on U.S. goods. If they charge us, we charge them, every country, Mr. Trump said, adding, if they are charging us 130%, we're charging them nothing. It's not going to stay that way. I mean, he's also just inviting countries to do the same to us as soon as we import them. Oh my God, my brain. As soon as we tariff them. So his logic is, if you're making us pay a tariff, we're going to make you pay a tariff, while he's going around and issuing tariffs to every country in sight. So he's giving the game away. He's just exposing, we should all just have a massive fucking trade war for no reason at all. Economists and Wall Street analysts warn that the new U.S. tariffs, if sustained, could cause inflation to flare, even as many Americans say they continue struggling with the cost of living. Mr. Trump's latest proposed steel and aluminum tariffs, plus the reciprocal tariffs, could boost the core personal consumption expenditures price index, a key measure of inflation, by an additional 0.4 percentage points. Deutsche Bank economists estimate in a February 10th research report. If the postponed tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada go into effect after the 30-day pause, inflation could rise higher than 3.5%. The long-term impact on U.S. prices is less certain and is contingent on how manufacturers react. U.S. steel prices will likely rise in the near term if these tariffs are implemented in full, economists with Capital Economics said in a report. However, higher prices might incentivize greater domestic production and help prices fall back before long. It takes a while, as we talked about, to build these factories and get them in operation. Within 12 months, these factors contributed to steel prices declining to their level before the tariffs were imposed, Capital Economics noted. A jump in prices coupled with rising inflation expectations would come at an awkward time for consumers and for Mr. Trump. While he has received positive approval ratings for his first 3 weeks in office, 2/3 of voters said that they don't believe he's doing enough to lower the price of goods and services. Because he's not. His approval rating's high because he's come in and he's essentially, aside from lowering prices, he's done everything he said he's going to do. He said he's going to mass deport a bunch of people. He's mass deporting. He said he's going to start throwing tariffs everywhere. He's throwing tariffs everywhere. He said he's going to end DEI. He ended DEI. But, people are starting to wake up and realize it's wait a minute, these don't improve my material conditions. This doesn't bring wages down. this doesn't bring wages up. This doesn't bring prices down. And it's all just for show. In some cases, these things like mass deporting can make costs go up. So, like, what are you doing to help us materially? Like, people are starting to realize that. Yeah, he's doing what he said, but, what he said isn't really that great or that helpful, and in cases is bad for the average American. And I think people are starting to put that together. So, inflation around the U.S. remains sticky, with the Federal Reserve pausing additional interest rate cuts until the rate of consumer price gains fall closer to its 2% annual target. Consumer price index data for January, scheduled to be released on Wednesday, is expected to show that prices rose 2.9% in January, unchanged from the prior month, according to financial data. I mean, that number pretty much means nothing right now. It could take months for us to see the full effect of these tariffs and all these policies that he's implementing. It's not normally a change overnight, so time will tell how this actually affects things. But yeah, that's where we're at. One thing I wanted to touch on before I ended this was just how much steel that we produce. These numbers are going to be from 2023. So it's estimated that we produced in 2023 89.7 million tons of steel. And it was estimated that we consumed 113 million tons of steel. So we do produce in 79%. We're close. We are close, but we're not there. And prices will go up if these definitely go through. So we import about 24 million tons. Now, obviously, this will hopefully incentivize companies to fill in that gap because we are close. But if you just, there's other ways to incentivize building factories here. And it doesn't all have to be through tariffs and trade war. You can do grants and subsidies and incentivize coming here to do it. And then once you have that at least in progress or some plan set out for, at least the midterm, then issue your tariffs. But now, like, all you're doing is just making a statement, and you're going to be hurting the average American for years to come until we can fully meet our own demand. So that's steel. Aluminum is not good in terms of how much we produce versus how much we consume. So we produce 750,000 metric tons, and through recycling, we get 2.9 million metric tons. So total is 3.65 million metric tons that we produce per year, or at least in 2023. And we consume 8.45 million metric tons. So we only produce 43% of what we use. Imagine how that's going to impact prices. And, he did say this somewhat recently, like a week or two ago, that Americans are going to understand that, prices might go up for the short term. They'll understand. Like, he's basically admitting, I know prices are going to go up. What are you going to do? So, it's tough. But I think that's all I have for this one. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.